Hi, Emily and I have started recording episodes of the Feminist Survival Project podcast. It used to be Feminist Survival Project 2020 because that's when we were making it for. Now it's the Feminist Survival Project Zombie Apocalypse Edition. And we're doing an episode on masking, and I thought that it'd be good to actually show the mask in progress. So this is 21 minutes of the masking episode. Unedited, because I figure if I'm showing you the mask, you need to see mask on versus mask off, the actual real thing. So the sound is bad, sorry. If you want to hear good sound, you can listen to the podcast version. But if you want to see the difference between me and Emily, mask on, mask off, this is it. And we talk about the significance of the mask in further detail in the podcast episode. And I'll link to the FSP Zombie Apocalypse in the description. Here's the mask. On and off. So the idea today is that we're going to talk about masking, and for the first part, we're gonna put on our masks while we talk about masking, and then we're gonna do it again, but we're gonna do it mask off and just see what the difference really is.
And this part is mostly so that you can get a video, image, a picture of what it's like when you see somebody who technically is autistic because you've heard them say that, but you're like, but you don't seem autistic.
You don't seem autistic. Yeah.
Yeah. I barely seemed autistic to anybody until 2021.
Yeah, until a clinician used
said, one, you're
metrics.
Autistic. Two, you mask hard.
Yeah.
Sword.
Yeah. So this is what I call the Amelia show.
And I've called it for you. How do you feel?
It feels good in the moment.
Yeah.
I've called it the Amelia show since the mid-90s, since high school. I have known that I have a show.
I have only called it the Emily show since 2003 when I started teaching.
Yeah, that was when I first started doing teaching type things of leading choirs, and yeah, it was in high school and then undergrad.
The day I got home from my first, it was when I became a doctoral student. I got a teaching assistantship. It was once a week, 3 hours, a 3-hour lecture with a 15-minute break in the middle of it. Yeah. And I got home from teaching that class. I rode my bike home, and I went into my room, and I horde sobbed for half an hour.
Yeah. Did you know why?
The same thing happened
at the time?
My first job out of the house, my first job for a paycheck.
Chuck E. Cheese?
Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened. I worked my little, whatever it was, 4-hour shift.
Oh, yeah, and you 100% put on the show.
And I horde sobbed for an unknown amount of time, and I had no idea why.
Yeah.
I knew that I was tired.
Yeah.
And I was physically tired. I was physically tired from the demands of food service, waiting tables job.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that I was also putting on a show.
Yeah. I, in retrospect, have come to understand that masking is the root of all stress for me. I've been doing it so long and so hard for so ever of my life that it just underpinned all of the other stress creation. And the first time I found it just barely tolerable was in doctoral school. I mean, I made it work as long as doctoral school, and then, as you're saying, a 3-hour rehearsal. I was conducting 3-hour rehearsals of the Town and Gown Choir, students and community members, and it was a 3-hour rehearsal, and I did this every Monday, and I was driving 65 miles home was my commute, and I would cry most of the way home. Yeah. And I talked to my therapist about it, and she was like, well, why is that happening? And I was like, I guess I'm just tired, or...
Yeah, I was just so tired,
and
just
also,
so demanding.
Rehearsals in particular require a lot of emotional focus. Most of the labor of running a rehearsal is making the rehearsal a place where it's safe to make mistakes and where you are kind of channeling, funneling, shepherding people's emotional states into one that is conducive to beautiful singing.
Right. Ditto sex education.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what I attributed it to at the time. And also that I had like this kind of like history of having a hard time with feelings.
Sure.
At no point did the word masking come into the conversation.
No.
And so then I finally got assessed for autism, and part of the autism assessment is a masking assessment. And the neuropsych person who evaluated my test said I had the highest masking score she'd ever seen. And her immediate follow-up to that was, I'm worried about you because masking is the aspect of autism in particular that leads to negative health outcomes, like
Yes.
bodily, physical negative health outcomes.
Yes. And what I hope we get to talk about today is, so the CAT-Q, which is the masking assessment tool that most often gets used.
Right.
I have real critiques about the shortcomings of that tool because I believe it does not assess the elements of camouflaging autism that are most exhausting for me. But we can get into that.
Yeah. I will also say that there is research that demonstrates this negative health outcome consequence of masking. And there is also research that compares different kinds of populations and how much they mask. In a gender binary situation, women mask more than men, but when you include anyone who's non-binary, including trans, agender, non-binary, they mask more than women.
Mask more than anyone else.
Yeah, the less you conform to the masculine
people, among non-neurodivergent people.
Yes, exactly. And I am
autistic people.
Right. And I am the neurodivergent and non-binary. And so this is
like, whoa.
That's why I have the highest masking score my neuropsych evaluator had ever seen. And that's why it's been the source of so much stress for me. Okay, so should we transition now to some not masking?
Let me conclude by
because I feel done with masking and I'm tired.
Burnout as a book was inspired by your health issues during grad school.
Yes.
And I believe that virtually all of those health problems were a direct consequence of what we now know to be masking.
Yeah, me trying to conform to the ideal that my academic advisors, professors wanted from me. They wanted me to conform to their expectation.
Yeah.
And the only professor, I had one professor who, instead of wanting me to conform to his expectation, he saw me be good at what I did despite the fact that I didn't conform to his expectation. I had one professor who saw that. And he was a tremendous relief.
Yeah.
In the end, not the strongest ally I could have hoped for. And and there was also like an adjunct professor who was really supportive, but like everybody else really that I encountered required me to be something pretty narrow. Something pretty rigid.
Are we transitioning out of masking now?
Yeah, I think we need to. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm tired. I was in a hurry, so I made tea in my measuring cup. To steep it in a measuring cup. And now I'm pouring it over ice in my mug. Okay. So yeah. And then I had professors who I had to stuff myself down into such a small box that I dreaded going to talk to them. Him. him. There's one in particular who I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm. I believe I met him at your...
You for sure did. At my recital.
Yeah, at your recital.
And
he said something like, "It's a pleasure to meet you." And I went, "Uh-huh."
Yeah. I was...
And he, like, I felt the big wave of, like, "You're supposed to be in awe of me."
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah. So this is a professor who did right by me as a conductor in the extent that he gave me his ensemble to conduct. When other professors were refusing to do that. When I had been told when I was admitted to the program that I'd be conducting ensembles at the university. And I started out that way, and then they were slowly taken away. And then for my recital, this professor said, "How about you conduct my ensemble?" And I was like, awesome. This is someone with a PhD in musicology who studied early music, and I was also very, very interested and focused on early music and historically informed performing. But he like held it over my head of like this incredible generosity he was having with me, and how I should be so grateful to him. And so when
I met him once, and that was the vibe.
Yeah. So when it came down to my actual recital, like the night of the performance, we had a little dress rehearsal and then like a 2 or 3 hour break before the performance started, and I had a nervous breakdown.
You sure did. I was driving there.
Yeah.
And you called me. And this is before we had access to prescription benzodiazepines.
Yeah.
Man, would that have been easier if you had access to medication?
If I'd had a diagnosis and access to adequate medical support, it would have been great. But so I was crying uncontrollably, and I could not stop crying.
You literally, like, physically could not stop.
I physically couldn't stop crying. And I was trying, like, we had already started I had already been in the hospital. I had already learned that emotions are held in your body, and I'd already started, like, trying to, like, feel my feelings. And I was jumping up and down saying, "I'm angry and I love being angry. I'm sad and I love being sad." Like, I was literally doing this out loud.
Yeah.
And it, like... Yeah, I ended up taking, like, a couple of shots of, like, chocolate vodka I think you brought me.
Yes, I brought you alcohol.
Because you brought me alcohol because we didn't have prescription meds. And I needed to downregulate my nervous system.
Yeah.
And alcohol is a depressant, and it does that. I still couldn't stop crying. 10 minutes before the performance started, I was in the green room doing Tai Chi and crying. Because Tai Chi, meditation and focus and like paying attention to this moment right here, and it's making me cry just thinking about that, because Jesus.
Yeah.
And this professor comes in. People have reported to him, "Amelia can't stop crying." And there I am in the green room. Crying and doing Tai Chi. Clearly trying to like calm myself the fuck down. And he comes in and says, "I've tried to make this as easy as possible," or something like that. Or, "I've tried to be supportive." And I'm like, I need him to shut up and go away. I need him to like not exist. Whoo. I don't remember much of that concert. Not because I was drunk. I only had like 2 shots, and that's not enough to be like...
Yeah, no. That's not even close to blackout drunk.
I didn't drink inappropriate... I mean,
but
it's inappropriate to drink before you work.
Even when you're having a good performance experience.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's...
Are so in the moment that they're not recording
you're not,
and they walk off and
exactly.
They're like, "I have no idea how that went."
Yeah, people are like, "How'd it go?" And I'm like, I don't know. You were in the audience. You tell me.
You know, I have a recording of a lot of it.
I have all of it on video. I had a front-facing camera, so that the camera's looking at me as though it's a member of the ensemble, and it's good. I did well. I got through it.
I have no way of knowing.
I did not break down. It was
not
good.
Until you were like walking off the stage.
I was walking off stage at the end, and I'm already crying again.
Yeah.
It was basically a matter of stage health, like where your body does its job. It knows it's on stage and performing, and so now we switch gears and we do the thing. So that's a kind of a mask, but here's the other instance. When in my doctoral program I broke down, like uncontrollable sobbing, which is when my mask cracks and fails. I was singing in an ensemble that I used to conduct. And then the school, I guess, decided that they needed this other professor to have an ensemble, and she bragged that she's never had a conducting lesson in her life. Never taken a conducting class.
And you at this point already had a master's
I had a master's degree
in choral conducting.
From one of the most prestigious schools in the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And she's a bad conductor. Even so, that one professor who saw me succeed despite my lack of conformity, even he was like, you know why she treats you this way? And I was like, because I'm better than she is? And he was like, yeah. Like, he wasn't going to say it, but he knew it, and he allowed me to say it. So she's conducting a song, and one of the movements of the piece goes, it's in the meter 5, which is a non-symmetrical meter, and it's one of those things you do in undergraduate conducting in like the second half of the semester. So the second half of your first semester of conducting class, you learn how to conduct in asymmetrical meters. It's just a thing you learn how to do, and she couldn't do it. She was having a hard time doing it because
pretty sure even I know how to conduct in 5.
Yeah,
let me try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It was in a compound 5, so it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which are the same as 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 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 it takes a little tiny bit of like skill to move your arm in a way that is nuanced enough to convey that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to like modulate that speed a little bit. I learned to do it in 1996 or 7.
When you were 19 years old.
When I was 19 or 20. So here's a woman with a doctorate in music education, has never taken a conducting lesson in her life. She's trying to conduct in 5, and she asks the jazz faculty member to come help her with it. She invites another professor who has also never studied conducting, but does a lot of music in odd meters, to come help her with it. And I am now singing in the ensemble that I used to conduct, watching her unable to do a thing that I have been teaching undergraduates to do as part of my responsibilities as a doctoral student in conducting.
So your mask cracks
so hard. I just like, as soon as he came up to talk to her about it, and I'm like the wrongness of the situation just like overwhelmed me.
So wrong.
And I just walked straight off stage and went to the bathroom and sobbed. Uncontrollably. And the adjunct professor who I mentioned had also been supportive, she came to that rehearsal, and when I got out of the bathroom and was a mess, she was like, oh my God, I've never seen you. Like, you're always so collected and calm and like, you're always so kind of competent. And I just like gushed the whole thing to her. And she was sympathetic. But she was really surprised by the fact that this would be so. That she was shocked that for me in particular to have been like hiding and suppressing this. I did not go back to that dress rehearsal.
No.
I didn't make it back. I spent the rest of the time crying in the bathroom and then talking to this other conductor in the lobby of the performance space. Those are the 2 times that I truly cracked at school. And those are the 2 times in my life when it just became unmanageable. Such that when I graduated and I got a job right away, and this was in 2013 when too many people with doctoral degrees, not enough faculty positions, people aren't getting full-time jobs. I got a full-time job as the only full-time music professor at a very small private university, where I was the music department and I was the coordinator of music, and it was my job to like make sure that the other people who taught music, like the band director and my accompanist, and like it was my job to be like the person who advocated for those other music people at the school, and there was no one to tell me what to do, and I just got to choose it. And the joy of not having to fight other academic music people, that was a really good job for me at that moment. It was a tremendous relief. And I was so glad to have found that specific kind of work. And I would not go and work and be like a full-time faculty member at a big music school surrounded by I would not do that now.
Yeah, no.
Knowing what masking did to me,
Mm-hmm.
of like needing to conform to other people's expectations,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it now.
And you're now just talking about like the emotional toll that it took, like the way you built a hard wall around your internal experience and behaved yourself.
Yeah.
And when the wall cracked, it was like the levee breaking in Katrina.
Yeah.
Like devastation.
Yeah.
And that's not
yeah.
including the stories about what that wall around your internal experience did to your physical health, which was hospitalize you twice.
Right. I'm going to stop recording the video now because it seems like pretty much a good demonstration of the difference between masking and not masking. And then we'll finish whatever we have to say just in the audio. Okay.